Houthi attack targeting Bahraini soldiers on Saudi Arabia tests Yemen's fragile truce. Amnesty International condemns Houthi arrests after National Day celebrations rallies. Yemen Airlines are going to stop flights from Sana'a to Jordan due to Houthi repressive measures. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Shazad Bidlay. The General Command of the Bahraini Defense Force announced the death of a fourth serviceman who was targeted in a Houthi drone last week on Saudi borders. Bahraini General Command extended sincere condolences to the family of the fallen serviceman and wished a speedy recovery for those injured due to this attack. This report has more details.
4 Bahraini soldiers were killed and a number of others wounded in what Manama said was a Houthi drone attack near Saudi Arabia's border with Yemen last week. It is the first lethal cross-border strike publicly attributed to the Yemeni rebels in many months, threatening to disrupt a nationwide ceasefire that has largely held for more than a year despite having formally expired in October 2022. It is also the first time Bahrain has lost forces to the Iran-backed Houthis since the 2015 Houthi missile attack in Ma'rib. Less than a week after a Houthi delegation returned from talks in Riyadh aimed at ending the war, the rebels openly paraded their military hardware in Sana'a to celebrate the 9th anniversary of their takeover of the capital. The attack may foretell a new situation in Yemen and the region, according to experts, who consider the killing of Bahraini soldiers on the Saudi territories as a significant development. The attack may well be seen in Gulf capitals as a test for the Biden administration's commitment to their security against Iran and its proxies, coming just weeks after Washington signed a new defense agreement with Bahrain, which American officials hope to potentially extend to other Gulf countries as well. That deal stipulates U.S. and Bahraini officials will immediately meet at the most senior levels to develop and implement appropriate defense and deterrent responses in case of any external aggression threatening either country's sovereignty.
Amnesty International reported a wave of arrests by the Houthis against peaceful protesters commemorating the 26 September revolution. The organization calls for the release of all protesters held for expressing the right to freedom of assembly. This report has more details.
Many Yemeni people celebrated the 61st anniversary of September 26 revolution in Sana'a streets. Nevertheless, they were subjected to suppression, arrest, and take the national flags away from them by the Houthis. Amnesty International has reported a wave of arrests by Houthis in Yemen, mainly for peaceful protesters commemorating the 26th of September revolution. The organization is calling on the authorities to release all demonstrators held solely for expressing their right to freedom of assembly. The authorities have demonstrated a disregard for freedom of expression and peaceful assembly, with hundreds of demonstrators currently detained across police stations in Sana'a. The participants in the demonstrations in Sana'a reported that Houthi supporters and members of Houthi armed forces attacked them and violently confiscated their flags in districts of Sana'a. The demonstrations were largely peaceful, but a small number of demonstrators threw stones in isolated incidents. Several detainees are facing vague charges such as creating chaos and being motivated by other parties. The detainees were singled out by security forces for carrying the national flag of Yemen. Since 2015, Amnesty International has documented how Houthis use repressive tactics to suppress the rights to freedom of expression and silence peaceful opposition in areas under their control by harassing, threatening, arbitrarily detaining, and prosecuting journalists, political activists, human rights defenders, and other individuals for peacefully practicing their right to freedom of expression.
The Houthi terrorist militia targeted a gathering north of Sada on the occasion of the 16th anniversary of the Yemeni revolution. According to a statement issued by the government forces, the militia fired Katyusha shells on the gathering and the government forces responded to the attack. In Damar, a Houthi supervisor assaulted an old man for raising the Republican flag on September Revolution celebration. Local sources confirmed that the Houthi supervisor attacked the 70-year-old citizen by stabbing him with a dagger, after which he was taken to the hospital in the area. People in a human rights conference in Geneva called for more international efforts to stop the violations against women and children in Yemen. In the conference organized by the Dialogue Forum for Development and Human Rights, the participants pointed out that Houthis' lack of commitment to international agreements that criminalize child recruitment and touched on the negative effects of the Houthi siege on Taiz, especially women and children. Human rights organizations organized a photo exhibition documenting Houthi crimes and violations which killed and injured thousands of civilians. The photo exhibition, which came on the sidelines of the session number 54 of the Human Rights Council, aims to remind the world of the suffering of Yemen that is witnessing as a result of the mines planted by the Houthi militia.
Here in Yemen, a 9-year conflict has created one of the worst humanitarian and protection crises this world has ever seen. More than 21 million people, including 4.5 million internally displaced people, need humanitarian assistance. And nearly 71,000 refugees and asylum seekers are sheltering in this war-torn country that has seen its economy devastated and is experiencing climate shocks. As part of the humanitarian community and as the representative of UNHCR in Yemen, I'm proud that our teams and our partners are doing crucial work to aid those in the greatest need. And it's unfortunate, but the reality is that Yemen remains one of the most dangerous places to operate. And most recently, we have tragically lost a fellow humanitarian, all while serving humanity. Humanitarians should not be targets. They should be protected in doing life-saving work. We should not forget that most of our colleagues are nationals, whose lives are sometimes at even greater risk than international staff.
The Yemeni Tourism Union condemned the abuses practiced by the Houthi militia against Yemen Airlines. In a statement, the union denounced the harassment of travel and tourism offices, which may put danger on their work. The union blamed the Houthi militia for any humanitarian complications on passengers and humanitarian cases if Yemen Airlines was unable to continue flights off Sana'a-Amman Way. Yemeniya, which is Yemen's national airline, is going to suspend its only remaining international commercial flights after the Houthis stopped the airline from taking funds from Sana'a banks. This report has more details.
Yemen's national airline will suspend the only international commercial flight from Yemen's capital Sana'a in response to the Houthi administration blocking the carrier from withdrawing its funds from Sana'a banks. As for company executives mentioned, Yemeniya will hold 6 weekly flights to Jordan in October, the company officials said, after negotiations with the Houthis failed to secure the release of airline funds, which executives at the carrier said amounted to $80 million. The airline has only been flying the route for over a year, after reinstating it following a deal organized by the United Nations. The suspension of flights comes only a few months after the UN envoy reportedly welcomed an increase in flights between Sana'a and Jordan. Yemeniya had proposed the Houthi administration take 70% of the funds, while the remaining 30% would go to the internationally recognized government, as the sources said. The Houthi administration rejected the offer, which was when the airline decided to suspend flights to Jordan. And Yemeniya said in a statement that it had been unable to withdraw its funds in Sana'a banks for several months and called on the Houthi authorities to lift restrictions illegally imposed on its assets. Yemeniya resumed flights from Sana'a to Amman, Jordan's capital, in April 2022. Last month, the president of the Jordanian Civil Aviation Regulatory Commission reportedly disclosed that Yemeniya had been granted permits to operate more flights to Queen Alia International Airport in Amman. As reported by Jordan News, that the number of flights between the two cities depended on the Yemeni decisions and local factors. 2 days later, the carrier reportedly began its operation of 6 weekly flights to Amman from Sana'a. And Yemeniya said in a statement that it had been unable to withdraw its funds in Sana'a banks for several months, which forced them to call the Houthi leaders to lift their restrictions to allow them to pursue flights.
Coming next in the news. Maternity and Child Care Hospital in Mukalla to stop providing services due to funding shortages. Welcome back. The National Foundation for Cancer Control in TAS organized the introduction meeting for a campaign to raise awareness about breast cancer. The PINK campaign aims to increase public awareness of the importance of undergoing early breast cancer detection tests.
طبعا اليوم 1 أكتوبر الوردي.
This campaign aims at sending a message to the concerned authorities and to the people to watch out against the breast cancer, which became a threat to women. The number of patients is increasing rapidly, and the breast cancer is the fastest type of cancer as to spreading. We can limit its spread through awareness.
In Hadramaut, the Maternity and Childhood Hospital is expected to close its doors due to lack of medical supplies and financing. This report has more details.
Like other patients who go to public health facilities, this patient can no longer obtain free healthcare services in the Maternity and Childhood Hospital in the city of Mukalla in Hadramaut Governorate due to the failure of the official and local authorities to intervene urgently. This poses a threat as the hospital can stop operating at any moment, which exposes thousands of patients to great suffering and pain, especially incubation and childbirth cases, which will be more affected by this disaster, as the hospital covers approximately 4 Yemeni governorates.
We came here to this hospital and we found out that they raised the fees of the services. The country is going through crisis and people are suffering a lot. Instead of helping us, they are putting an extra burden on all of us. They shouldn't raise the fees at this time.
This health facility is experiencing tragic conditions in light of a severe financial crisis that it's facing, such as the scarcity of government funding and the cessation of support from the UNICEF, which forced the hospital administration to suspend the free services for citizens and impose a financial increase on the fees of some of these services.
Here in the Maternity and Child Hospital, we receive patients from the most of Yemeni governorates. This poses a pressure on us and consumes the hospital facilities, especially with the absence of any support from authorities and organizations. The current situation forces us to look for immediate and effective solutions to be able to serve and help those patients who come to the hospital looking for treatment. We call on authorities who are responsible for the health sector in Yemen to intervene and support the maternity and child hospital.
The calls and appeals issued by citizens and workers in this health facility continue, in light of the lack of listening ears from the Ministry of Health and the local authority. So the simple citizen remains the one who suffers and pays the bitterness of this negligence and inaction.
من قبل ندرس في الخيام يعني في المسجد لأن الفصول ما كانت توافر بكثرة.
الفصول يعني قليلة مزدحمة وعدد النازحين يعني كثير كانوا.
لما بنوا المدرسة عمت الفرحة بعض الطلاب وبقى يقدروا يستوعبوا وبقى يقدروا يعني يفهموا درسهم مرتاحين.
وعملت على تماسك المجتمع المضيف مع النازحين وأصبحوا مخرجة التعليم ذات جودة عالية.
تخلصنا من الخيام ومن الدراسة خارج المدرسة، الآن كل الطلاب يدرسوا داخل المدرسة.
والله نفسية الطلاب كانوا مرتاحين لدرجة أنه زاد الإقبال الطلاب على المدرسة إقبال شديد.
يعني المدرسة توسعت، زيد فعلوا فصول جديدة.
The World Bank issued a report on the situation of education in Yemen after years of war. According to the bank's report, the expenses related with schools in light of the economic deterioration may prevent many families in Yemen from sending their children to school. The United States allocated additional funds of more than $73 million to Yemen in the current year 2023. According to a recent report by the United States Agency for International Development, the total U.S. funded provided from the beginning of the current year amounted to more than $700 million. Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Houthi attack targeting Bahraini soldiers on Saudi borders test Yemen's fragile truce. Amnesty International condemns Houthi arrests after National Day celebration rallies. Yemen Airlines are going to stop flights from Sana'a to Jordan due to Houthi repressive measures. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.